Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, based on where you are. I hope you all are healthy. In today's video, I am going to cover basics of Amazon EC2 instance. Amazon EC2 is Amazon's secure and resizable compute capacity for virtually any workload. I have created this video as a lab session where we will work in AWS Management Console. If you follow today's session without skipping any content, you should have an understanding about Amazon EC2. If you do not have prior experience with AWS Cloud or Amazon EC2, it's absolutely fine. You don't need any prior knowledge to follow this video. But if you want to follow along and practice those labs, then you need an AWS account. If you do not have, you can create a free AWS account very easily. Now, before I start, I would like to request you, if you are new to our channel or haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to our channel and please click on the bell icon to get notification for any new topics. We are trying to upload videos on a daily basis. Now let's review what are the items we are going to cover on a high level. First, we'll launch an Amazon EC2 instance. We'll review different EC2 configurations and parameters. Then we'll see how to access an EC2 instance, and at the end we'll see how to stop or terminate an EC2 instance. With that, let's get started. Let's start with creating an EC2 instance. Once you log into AWS Management Console, this is the landing screen. If you are logging to AWS Management Console for the first time, you will not see the list of services in the recently visited. I have used, that is why all those services are available here. To select EC2, if you have already used or if it is in your recently visited, you can directly click here. But other option is you can go in the search bar and there you can write any service you want. Now let's write EC2, top item from the list. Now this is EC2 dashboard. In this EC2 dashboard, you will get a summary of number of instances you have in your account. It could be in any state. The number of instances in running state, how many EBS volumes you have, how many key pairs you have, how many security groups you have. If you are coming for the first time, you should see one security group, that is the default security group, and you can launch your EC2 instance on that security group, or you can create a custom security group as per your requirement. Now let's start with key pair. Since you can see we do not have a key pair, either I can click here, or the alternate option is if I come to the left hand side of the screen, under network and security we have key pairs. So clicking here and clicking the key pair in the EC2 dashboard, both will bring you to the same place. We are here to create a key pair, so we'll start with create key pair. Let's give a name. You can give any name you want. If you are using putty, then you have to use .ppk file. If you are using OpenSSH, you are using .pem. But for this lab, let's go ahead with the .pem file. Since I have given the name, let's create the key pair. Now once the key pair will be created, it will be downloaded in your download folder. Next, since we have created the key pair, we'll go back to EC2 dashboard and we'll launch our first instance. To launch an EC2 instance, you can click this launch instance button, or you can go to instances. I already had one EC2 instance what I have terminated. Once you terminate an EC2 instance, it will be there in your dashboard for a brief period of time, but you are not getting charged for that. Any EC2 instance in terminated status, you are not actually getting billed for that. Now let's try to launch one EC2 instance. First, we have to give a name. Let's give the name as test EC2 Linux. Now we have different operating systems you can choose. You can choose Amazon Linux, you can choose Mac OS, you can choose Ubuntu, Windows, Red Hat. It's up to you. For this lab, we are going to choose Amazon Linux. Maybe if you need, I can create a separate video for Windows, Ubuntu or Mac, whatever you want. If you want me to create an EC2 instance for other operating system, please put your request as a comment on this video. Here is a quick option to select the AMI or Amazon machine image, or you can click browse more AMIs. It will take you to a different screen where you can see what are the AMIs that are free tier eligible. You will get 750 hours under EC2 free tier eligibility, and only couple of EC2 instances AMI is available, like Amazon Linux 2 is free tier eligible, Mac is not, Red Hat is free tier eligible. Now if you do not want to spend money here, if you just doing this for testing, please select free tier only, and it will filter out the list and it will give you only those AMIs eligible for free tier. Under every AMI we have two options, either 86 architecture or ARM based architecture. If you see, for Linux we have both the option x86 or ARM. If I'll go to Windows, ARM is not there because Windows does not support ARM based architecture. That is why if you are in Linux, then you can select either x86 or ARM base. For this lab, let me go ahead with x86. If you want me to create a video with ARM base, please drop your comment in this video. I have selected the AMI. Now the instance type. You have multiple options to select. You can see T2 micro, T2 small, T2 medium. The difference is size in the vCPU or virtual CPU and the RAM. Now if you are doing for the testing and if you do not want to spend any money, I would say please go with the free tier. If you go with T2 small, you have to pay the on-demand instance charges. For this lab, I want to be in the free tier. Let's go with T2 micro. Now the key pair. If you remember, we have created the key pair at the beginning of this lab. Now let's select the key pair. After that, networking. Now where you want to place? Do you want to place in a default VPC or do you want to place in a custom VPC where you want? To change that networking, you can go to edit and there you can select the VPC. By default, you have one VPC, that is the default VPC. If you have a custom VPC, what you have created your own, and you have multiple subnets you want to place in a particular subnet, then you can go to this option, update the VPC, update the subnet. For me, let me go with USTist 1A. Now auto assign public IP. If you keep this one enable, then your instance will be assigned with a public IP what you will be able to access from internet. If you put disable here, then your instance will not have a public IP, it will have only private IP. Let me select enable. Now firewall setting. As you know, security group is instance level firewall. If you do not have a security group existing, then you can create one or you can go with a default group. If you already have a security group created, you can select that. For this lab, we are creating a new security group. Let's give a name, test SG. Now you can give a description. Now coming back to security group inbound rules. To access the EC2 instance, if you want to access from a SSH client, you have to open port 22. Now how you are going to access? Either you can go for anywhere, that is a very wide permission. Anyone, whoever has access to your key, they can access this EC2 instance. Or else you can go to custom and you can give your own IP address. For this lab, let's go with anywhere. But the recommended option is do not open SSH from anywhere, and it can create security issues for you or security problem for you. Now next, the EBS volume. By default, I have a 8 GB GP2 volume. If I want, I can make it 30 GB. Now free tier eligibility is up to 30 GB. That is why I am going with 30. If you want 100 GB, you can go with that. To be in free tier, let's proceed with this lab with 30 GB. In advance, we have option to go for spot instances. If you have a workload what can sustain failure, or maybe that is variable in nature, you can request for spot instance and you are saving significantly from on-demand pricing. Now under instance auto recovery, if I click info, it will say instance auto recovery will help you if your instance status check fail. By default it will allow you to auto recover. You can go with the default option or you can disable. Shutdown behavior, if you are shutting down, do you want to terminate the EC2 instance or do you want to stop it? Default option is stop. If you want to terminate, you can select terminate. Next, termination protection. Let's say you are creating a production EC2 and you do not want somebody to terminate accidentally. In that case, you can select enable. If you select enable, then you won't be able to terminate. You have to come to this EC2 parameter, you have to first change this termination protection, then only you will be able to terminate. Before enabling termination protection, especially if you are new, you are doing that slab for the first time, please remember these two parameters, stop protection and termination protection. If you enable, you are making sure you won't be able to stop and terminate if you enable both. For this lab, let's make both as default option. We don't want to put the termination protection. This is a test. This is not a production environment. Now, next option is user data. If you want to add any software, maybe you want to create a web application, maybe you want to install HTTPD server at the beginning, you want when the instance will be launched, your HTTPD server will be launched. You can add all those data as a user data. For this lab, I do not have a user data, but if you have, you can add. Since I have selected all those parameters, next step would be launch instance. Now let's click view all instances. It will take me to EC2 dashboard and you can see this is the instance that we have launched and the status is pending. So when you launch EC2 instance, the first status is pending. I'll pause this video here and I'll come back when the EC2 instance started. It took about 30 seconds to change the status to running and still the status check is going on. It is saying initializing. So it will do the status checking and it will make sure the instance is healthy. It will take maybe another a minute to come back the status check, and once the status check is successfully completed, you should see status 2 by 2. Now while the status check is coming, let's review other parameters whatever we have configured. If we start with security, here you will see the security group. Here you can see the inbound security group rule. Here is the outbound security group rule. Next, networking. You can see the public IP address, private IP address, VPC ID, then subnet ID, availability zone, and here is the network interface or ENI. In terms of storage, we have added 130 GB GP2, so here all those storage will be available. Now if you add another one block storage, you can see that block storage will appear here. Next, status check. The status check is going on, that is why it is still in initializing. Once it will be completed, that time we will see the value will be populated here. Coming to monitoring, as you know, EC2 provides all different type of monitoring like CPU utilization, status check failed, network packet in, network packet out. So in EC2 dashboard also you will see, but if you want a single pane of glass, you can create these dashboards in CloudWatch also. You can create a dashboard with multiple EC2 instances. Maybe in your account if you have 10 EC2 instances, if you want CPU utilization for all the instances in one graph, you can create that graph and you can put it in a CloudWatch dashboard. But if you want on an individual level, then from EC2 dashboard, if you come to monitoring, you will see all the individual instance level performance under this tab. Now you can see the status check is 2 by 2 check passed. That means now the EC2 instance is running, it is healthy. If we will go back to status check, you can see system reachability check passed, instance reachability check passed. So 2 by 2 means both the checks that is passed. First system status check and instance status check. So both are passed. Now we are at the second part of the demo where we are going to see how to access the EC2 instance. I'll create a separate video to cover how to access the EC2 instance using SSH client or putty. But for the time being, let's connect using EC2 Instance Connect. If you want to connect an EC2 instance, please select this checkbox and then click the connect option. It will give you 4 different options. I'll cover all the 4 options in a separate video, but for the time being, let's connect with EC2 Instance Connect. To connect with EC2 Instance Connect, you really do not have to install any software, download putty. You can directly connect from this drop down using a web based tool. Now let's connect. I am in my EC2 instance. Now if I want to execute any command, I'll be able to. So let's try. I have elevated my permission. Before I conclude today's video, let me show you how to stop or how to start an EC2 instance, because this is very important. If you are not using an EC2 instance, you should not keep your instance running, or else you will unnecessarily keep on getting the bills. So to stop or terminate an EC2 instance, one point you have to remember: if you terminate, that means you won't be able to get back that EC2 instance. But let's say if you do not want to incur any charge, maybe you will use that EC2 instance in future, but currently you are not using, that time you can keep that instance in stop state. To do a stop or terminate, select that EC2 instance, and from the instance state drop down, either you can stop or you reboot or terminate. Now for my case, I am going to terminate, because after this lab I really do not need that instance. And if you are also doing only for testing, so let's terminate, or else I don't want you also to get bills or incur any charges from AWS. So let's terminate. Now once you click terminate, it will ask for the confirmation, and it want to make sure that this is not an accidental termination. You can see the instance is now shutting down and it will be terminated. Here you go. Now the instance is terminated, and if your instance is saying it is terminated, although it is there in your dashboard, you will not get any charges. That was all for today. To summarize, we saw how to launch an EC2 instance. We have reviewed different EC2 instance parameters. Then we saw how to access an EC2 instance, and at the end we saw how to stop or terminate an EC2 instance. Now we came to a conclusion about today's topic. I hope I was able to clarify all your doubts. If you have any question regarding today's topic, please post your question as comment to this video. We will answer at earliest. Before we conclude today, I would like to request you please subscribe our channel and please click on the bell icon to get notification for new topics. If you want me to cover any topics, please provide your request as a comment on this video. If you appreciate our effort, please like this video. It will definitely motivate us. At the end, thank you. Please take care and stay safe.